Good morning, good Yantif. Today is Yud Kislev, which is the Chag HaGeula of the Mittel Rebbe, the day the second Lubavitch Rebbe got out of jail. Yesterday was his birthday and his yahrzeit, and today is a very special day. We don't say Tachnun, and we're going to deviate from our regular Torah or look at the Torah learning, and we're going to do a mimer from the Rebbe on Yud Kislev. The pasuk in Tehillim says, "Pada v'shalom nafshi mikravli ki v'rapim hayu imadi," which is David HaMelech's, simply meaning David HaMelech is praising, thanking, expressing his appreciation to Hashem for being redeemed in peace from his battles, from the many that were with him. This pasuk talks about David HaMelech, which was David Malka Mashiach. And however, there's a mimer from the Mittler Rebbe, which he talks about Pada Beshalom, and he says there are many different levels of being redeemed. And he goes through a bunch of levels all the way through. The ultimate redemption in peace is when Mashiach comes. Right? So that's the greatest. The Alter Rebbe says, what does Pada Beshalom mean? So in Igeres HaKodesh, in Tanya, he says that it's referring to the individual redeeming that takes place among every single Yid in his avodah, in the service of Hashem every day. Every person has challenges. They have certain, let's call it imprisonments within their own life. And every day there is a process of getting out of that imprisonment to do their avodah to serve Hashem. Let's just use an extreme example. The person is tempted with eating non-kosher and he's locked in it. And every day, his avodah, he has to break away from that temptation and not do it. So that's the pediyah, they're being redeemed peacefully from his internal exile, which is an avodah every single day. And through doing that individual, redeeming yourself from that golus, that leads to the general geula of collective redemption that will happen very soon. Okay, so we have three explanations. We have three levels. Pada v'shalom simply means David HaMelech is being redeemed from his wars, from his problems, from his issues. And David HaMelech is not just anybody, but he represents David Malka Mashiach. Mashiach comes from David. Then we have the Mittler Rebbe who talks about many levels in this redeeming within peace, all the way till the redemption that happens when Mashiach comes. And then he brings from the Alter Rebbe that this redeeming refers to the daily process of being redeemed from exile that happens every day in the avodah of a person serving Hashem. And doing that successfully, our individual, personal redeeming takes us to the general one when Mashiach will come. Good? So the Rebbe says, if you want to understand this, and in general to understand what does it mean being redeemed from Golus, he wants to bring a teaching from the Baal HaYilula. You know, you say birthday boy. So when you talk about the person that was redeemed from prison, you say the Baal HaYilula, the master of. When we talk about the one who has the yahrzeit, it's Baal HaYilula, the one who had the yahrzeit, and the one who had the birthday, and he is the Baal HaGeula of today, the one who was redeemed on this day from imprisonment. So he has a mimer in Teras Chaim, Parshas Vayetze, which explains as follows: that Vayetze Yaakov went out of Beersheva and he went to Haran. Going out of Beersheva represents Golus and Yerida. Now, what's Golus and Yerida? So the first Golus that happened, first stage of Golus, you don't want to guess what it is? First state of Golus is the Neshama coming down into this world. It says in Tanya, chapter 37, that the descent of the Neshama into this world is Me'igra Rama Lebira Mikta, which means from a very tall mountain to a deep pit. What do we mean? Bira Mikta means a pit. If you put someone into a pit, he's in Golus, he's stuck, he's imprisoned. Right? Where else do you find it? You find it by Yosef HaTzadik. He was put in a pit. Can't run away. In Parshas Vayeshev you have that. Not only that, but the pit itself is a deep pit, which that's the ultimate descent into Golus, is when it's really deep. Now, where's this descent from? The neshama. It's from a very high mountain. It's not just he was in a good place. It was from a mountain, and a very high mountain. When a person is in a regular plane, you're on the ground, and you go into a pit, that's golus. You go into a deep pit, it's even harder. If you're not coming from a regular plane, but you're coming from a mountain, and a tall mountain, that descent and that difference is extreme. And that's what the neshama is going through. You see, from that expression, you see the intensity of the golus that we have, and the neshama came down. And that's what it means on a deeper level. Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva. Yaakov went out of Beersheva. He went to Haran. Be'er means a well. A well contains water. Or containing something. Spiritually speaking, or Kabbalistically speaking, this is implying malchus. We have spheres, which are godly revelations or interactions, manifestations. And malchus is the seventh one, and it contains within it all the other six that come before it. So it's a very high spiritual level. Be'er Sheva represents that. So Yaakov went out of Be'er Sheva, the neshama left that state of having access to Malchus. Not only that, but Malchus has a source. You see, there's two parts. There's the intellectual family or category, then there's the emotional. There's Chachma, there's Seichel and Midos. Okay? Intellect and emotion. Malchus is the bottom of the emotion one, which means it contains all of the emotions in it, all of the midas in it, and that has all of that. Malchus. But the source of Malchus is Bina, and Bina is a very important sphera. We say Ema Banim Smecha. It's the processing of the mind, which allows for feelings to happen. So not only is Be'er Sheva the well of seven, alluding to Malchus, but it also has a Bina in it. Not only that, but the Rebbe says, the Mittler Rebbe says, it's even greater because it's the source of the seven midas, and the source is really Keser, which is a crown above the whole Seder Shtashlos. There's intellect and emotion. There's a crown above that intellect. It's called Keser. Okay, don't get lost in the Kabbalah here, but it's Keser. That's the source of the neshama. So the neshama, which is the first step of going into Golus, that it descends into this world, is existing first, emanates from a very high level, referred to as Be'er Sheva, but it means Keser, Bina, Malchus. It's high, and it's thrown down into this low pit, to this physical world. Let's look at the pasuk. Where did Yaakov go from? He went from Be'er Sheva, which is these high levels where the neshama comes from, all the way up to Keser, which is the source of the neshama, and it comes down into he went to Haran. Now Haran is the name of a place, but Haran is called that because it's Charein Af Shomakim. It angers Hashem. The behavior there and the voidness of godliness in a revealed way is angers Hashem.
Beersheva is still today in Beersheva.
Yeah. So it went from a good place, a very positive place, high mountain, or here we're talking about Malchus Bina Keser, and it went from that into Haran. And Haran is a bad place. Now look at Haran itself. Haran is the same letters as Rina. Ches Reish Nun would be Reish Nun Ches. Now Rina means happiness, rejoicing, pleasantness. It's positive. Okay, not pleasantness, but happy. But it's not Haran, it's Ches Reish Nun, and this is Reish Nun Hey. It's not really the same letters. The Hey is exchanged to a Ches, making the Rina become Haran. Where else do you have an exchange of Hey to a Ches? You have it in Matzah and Chametz. Pass the tissues, please. Thank you. Matzah and Chametz are the same level, are the same letters, right? Except that the Hey of the Matzah is a Ches, and now it's Chametz. Now Chametz is such a bad klippa, the sense of self, arrogance, pride, and so on, misplaced, is so toxic that sometimes we even say it's Asr Bal Yira Bal Yamatzah. It's only 1 week a year. But we forbade it, or Torah forbade it, because it's so negative. That switch from the Hey to the Ches. So Haran switching is a switch from Rina to Charan. Charan is spelled, Ches Reishon, Rina is Reishon Hey, and it's interchanged. The Hey becomes a Ches, and that causes that. So, Yaakov going out of Beersheba represents the neshama going from a holy place, Malchus, Bina, Keser, all the way into this world. And this world is not just a world, but it's a world that has chametz in it. It's a world that's charan, chaynav shamakim, and it's a major, major downgrade, demotion, if you will, a descent from where the neshama was to where the neshama is going. You feel bad for the neshama?
Pardon me?
Do you feel bad for your neshama?
Yeah, sure.
We should be happy because we're going to get it out. We're going to pull it out of the ruts. Not every day. We said every day we do it.
You're right.
The daily avodah is getting out of the golas. Now, what's the purpose of this whole craziness? So he says, the whole reason why the neshama came from such a high place and goes through the inconvenience or the pain of coming all the way down is in order to have an elevation afterwards. Just like by Yaakov. Yaakov went to Charan. Why did he do it? Because by going into Charan, he had afterwards, V'hashivei sicha, as Hashem promised, I'm going to return you. V'shavti Beshalom, I'm going to return you in a peaceful way. Hishiva limkreide, he's going to be returned to his source. And what's his source? His source is Beersheba, which we already said is Malchus, Bina, Keser, etc., etc. And through that, then Hashem will be my Eibishter. Okay? So, the whole reason why I had to go through this difficulty of leaving Eretz Yisrael, which is Beersheba, Keser, Malchus, Malchus, Bina, Keser, is in order to return there. He's coming back to those great levels, and when he comes back to those levels after being away and going through the down, then he said Hashem is going to be Havaya is going to be Elikim. Now Havaya and Elikim are two different names which mean expressions, if you will, of Hashem. Now Elikim is much more apparent in the sense of active in nature. It's the level of creation. It's the same gematria as Hateva. It's, let's call it a lower level of expression of godliness. Havaya is a much higher one. It's much higher. Sometimes you can't really interact with it in a very real, tangible way. It's removed. It's a very high level. We're here. We're dealing with the world, with nature, with physicality. And Havaya is much higher. You see it Kevavke. He says, V'haya Havaya Lila Elikim, that for me, Havaya is going to be on the same level as Elikim. In other words, in my nature, in my physical, my material interactions, the world that I'm living in, I elevated it so much, or I'm so sensitive to godliness, that the Havaya level is just like a Elikim for me. But you can't just get to that, because Yaakov Avinu went out of Beersheba, which is so holy, and like the neshama, and it went into Charan, which is so the opposite. It's only in order they should be able to come back, and by coming back, he now has this greater level of that Havaya is like Elikim. And that's why he says, part of Yaakov Avinu's promise is, everything that you're going to give me, I'm going to give Meiser to you, to Hashem. What does that mean? That refers to Keser, and not just Keser, but Pnimius HaKeser. When you say, I'll give you a tenth, it means there's a certain 10% which is special here. And the special is the Keser. It's above the 10 Sfiras. And not just Keser, but Keser has two parts to it, internal and external. This is the Pnimius HaKeser, also referred to as Atik. And that's why it says, Vayifrei Tza'ish Ma'id Ma'id. And here's going to introduce a very interesting concept, what it means to be rich, and what Tshuva is all about. It says by Yaakov Avinu, as he was coming back, Vayifrei Tza'ish Ma'id Ma'id, the man got richer and richer. Vayifrei means he broke forth, but it means he was really expanding. Ma'id Ma'id, very, very. Okay, tremendously wealthy. Now, Ma'id in general means Tshuva, because Tshuva takes a level of B'chol Ma'idecha, with your whole being. A person's changing himself. and it means a level of tshuva. And that's why the pasuk says that Yaakov Avinu Eifetz Ish Ma'od Ma'od, very, very, because Ma'od is tshuva, and here it says twice Ma'od, which means Kiflayim Etusheh. It was a double level. But the level of tshuva is obviously very, very high. You know that levels where tshuva are tzaddikim gvorim can be, because it takes a much stronger energy to get there. And that's why we say that when Yaakov Avinu, when Torah says "Vayifetish ma'id ma'id," very, very, it means that he attained that level of b'chol me'idecha. And that's also the idea of literally what the pasuk means. It means wealth. Yaakov Avinu reached a tremendous wealth. Why? Because wealth represents also tshuva. How does wealth represent tshuva? So it's brought elsewhere that when it comes to giving a poor person what he needs, there's levels. We have a obligation. The person is lacking something, give him what he's lacking. For one person, it could be a sandwich, right? That's all he's missing. For someone else, he has a private driver and a cook and a bodyguard, and for him, that's what he needs. So give the person what they're lacking. It's not called wealth. It's called their baseline. Or in words of Avodas Hashem and Tshuva, it's Medida V'Agbala. You're serving Hashem in a limited, normal way. The Avodah of Ata Mechuyev La'ashrei, you have an obligation to make him wealthy. That means an Avodah which is higher than Medida V'Agbala. You could say, I serve Hashem in the regular way. It's not Vayifrei Tzaish Ma'id Ma'id, breaking forth and surpassing norms and doing much more B'chol Ma'idecha Tu Ma'id. It's basic, normal, whatever I have to do, I do. Yaakov Avinu reached the level of he broke forth very, very, very wealthy. In the literal sense, Ma'id Ma'id means a lot, and in the deeper level of wealth, it represents beyond normal, going past limitations, pushing the limit. And that's what it says, that right when Yaakov Avinu left from Haran, he was ready for the Gula B'Des Mashlema. Because he reached all his levels, Tshuva, and higher than Tshuva already, it was breaking forth to the higher level of Tshuva. Breaking forth with the Vagbala, he was ready for Gula. That's why he sent Malachim to Esav to say, Lavan Garti, I kept the whole thing, I'm ready to go. I, Yaakov says, as far as I'm concerned, I finished the whole Avodas HaBirurim. I've already refined everything. I'm beyond limitations. I'm ready to the level of wealth. And as far as I'm concerned, you're also ready for the Gula. Why? Because he went to Haran. And because he went to Haran, he achieved the highest level of Aliyah, which is Tshuva. And so much so, at the end of the Parsha of Vayetze, Malachim of Eretz Yisrael come to greet him out of Eretz Yisrael. So you're doing what happens when Mashiach comes. Eretz Yisrael gets expanded out of Eretz Yisrael. The whole world becomes like Eretz Yisrael. Hashem broadens, expands the boundaries. So Yaakov Avinu achieved so much that when he comes to Eretz Yisrael, Malachim are greeting him out of Eretz Yisrael. He's ready. I did Avodas HaBirurim, Tshuva, B'chol Meidecha twice, Vayifrei Tzaish, higher than Medida V'Agbala. He's ready. As far as he's concerned, Yosef is also ready. Or as Al Terebe says in Tanya, the whole point was, make a dwelling place for Hashem, we're good to go. And that's what it means, Padav Beshalom Nafshi B'Krovli. This is all an introduction, right? Because redeeming, getting the highest level, is specifically Mikrovli. Krovli means a battle. By going in, descending down into the battle, which means literally a war. And more so, it's not just a war. Krav represents a battle that's very close. You have two types of war. You can sit in hundreds of miles away, and you're shooting weapons or whatever it is, or you're high up and it's from a distance. You're shooting arrows even, right? But then you have another type of battle where you're head on, face to face combat. It's called krav, because krav means kirov, it's closeness. Not just are they close, but they're attached to each other. They're wrestling, they're holding each other, fighting. That represents, not only are the bodies close to each other, but even the Dvar Hashem, which is the godly spark, the word of Hashem that's sustaining this person, they're attached. These two people, the two opposite sides, or the godly fighting with the Nefesh HaBahamis. which is a tremendous descent. You're going down and you're really in the mud with the enemy. But by doing that, the krav, or being in the physical world, dealing with that adversity, that's how you have the ultimate aliyah, the elevation that happens by the Beshalom. And that's similar to Vayetze Yaakov, right? He went out of Golus, he went into Golus, and after that he came to, it says, V'shafti Beshalom, I'll return with peace. Beshalom means in peace, but it also represents Beis Shalom, 2 levels of peace. It's 2 levels, Shafti Beshalom and Pada Beshalom. I'm returning and I'm being redeemed. Rebbe concludes the Maimer and he says, he not saying that from the Geula of the Mitler Rebbe, which was today, he got freed from his imprisonment, we should come very quickly to the ultimate and true Geula, the Mashiach Tzidkenu, especially through the preparation in the ways of the Bala Geula, which is learning Chassidus. What was unique about the Mitler Rebbe is that he learned Chassidus in a way of Harchava, very broad way. It was like a lot of Chassidus and very deep. The Cheves Hanar, which the main idea of this Harchava, this broadness, is in Pnimiyas HaTorah, in the inner parts of Torah, because in the revealed parts of Torah, a person can learn the whole Torah. But once you get to the Shakavataya questions and the answers and the Papuli Deraisa, especially in Pnimiyas HaTorah, it says, Arucha be'eretz midah, Ruchava miniyam. Regarding the deeper parts of Torah, that's where you say Rechev. Recheves is broader than the earth, and it's longer than the earth and deeper and broader than the sea. And that brings to Yarcha Hashem Kechas Gevulcha, that Hashem is going to broaden your boundaries, literally. It's going to happen, Mashiach will come. Chavas Haaretz, Eretz, Keni, Knizi, V'Kadmeini. There's 7 nations in Eretz Yisrael. There's 3 out of Eretz Yisrael. Hashem is going to expand it to those 3 as well, which that's the idea of Meichin. I said before, there's Midas and Meichin. Meichin is intellect. There's 3 levels, Chacham Bin Adas, alluding to the 3 levels, Keni, Knizi, V'Kadmeini. Keni, Knizi, V'Kadmeini. And that's going to happen when Mashiach comes, as it's explained in another manner from the Mitler Rebbe, called Al Tatzaras Mayav. And through this, we come to the Geula, Kitzur HaShech Yafar, V'yavay Melech Kol Eretz, V'mheira V'yameinu Mamish. Thanks for joining. Join us again soon.